Welcome back to 33 Dreams of Indy. I'm your host, Robert Earl, and today I am joined by Turn 3 Motorsport with Antoine Comeau and Peter Dempsey. Peter's on screen. Anton is joining us via the phone. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
Yep.
I see there in the background, Peter, you guys are thrashing and getting ready for testing this weekend. Is that correct?
That is, yeah. We just came back from a 2-day test last week at Road America. So busy just getting the car prepped for Indianapolis this weekend to finish out. It's our last series test of the year. So also it's going to be Antoine's first time there this weekend. So looking forward to a learning weekend.
Yeah, it should be fantastic. Anton, tell me a little bit about how you got into racing, how you got into this Road to Indy series and what brought you to the series.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I always wanted to race. Unfortunately, the opportunity wasn't really there when I was in Canada, so I put that on hold for quite some time. But after working for a couple of years, the budget was there and became a more real possibility. So I started by joining the Autobahn Country Club in 2014 with my street car just to do some lapping. Didn't really think I would want to do more than that, but within a couple of months I started driving the Radical SR3 that I'm driving right now, as well as the Miata, and I raced that for a year in 2015, and after that, I started taking it a little bit more seriously. That's when I met Peter, and helped me substantially with the coaching, and basically taught me a lot by example. He would just get in the car, I'd look at his data, look at his video, try to do the same thing, and that's pretty much what I've been working on for 2016 and 2017. Now, in 2018, I decided to get a little more serious. So Peter and we decided to get an Indy Pro 2000. That Peter built over the winter, and the goal was that I would test that car in 2018, so I could race it in 2019. So that's pretty much what we did. I kept driving in the Radical series last year, while starting to get some track time in the Indy Pro. And this year we ended up joining the series in the middle of the year. We started at the Mid-Ohio. And just trying to get faster and improve since then. And we're looking at a full season next year.
Jumping right in with that. You've been very successful with the Radical. I think I was reading 9 out of 15 races so far that you've had a victory in, and you're the leader in the points. You guys were quite busy with that car as well out on the West Coast, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And it was a similar story over the previous year. Had a pretty good win rate in that series. So I think it was time for me to try something more serious. And at the same time, I found it very challenging and very interesting to see that pretty much everyone that's in the Indy Pro series is aiming to be a professional driver. So the level there is substantially higher than anything I've seen before. While in the past, I was usually able to run at the front or even win races. Now it's been much more of a challenge here, but at the same time, very enjoyable to have this level of competition and have a much higher target.
Well, you've got a great coach there with Peter in the competition. Peter, very successful in the Star Mazda series that is now what has become the Indy Pro 2000, also in the Indy Lights. Many that are maybe newer to this or need a little bit of refresher, if they thought this year's Freedom 100 finish was close, they should go back and look at the videotape of your finish, correct?
Yeah, certainly. I think it was the closest ever 4-wide finish at Indy. I think 4 cars scored by under 5 hundredths of a second. Sad thing is it's getting longer and longer as it goes. Every year it passes. But still, it made it to YouTube and had a huge amount of hits. And obviously to win the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, no matter what situation it is always a special moment. So very grateful to have had that opportunity.
So tell me about your racing background and what brought you to racing yourself, and then we'll transition to turn 3. But talk about yourself and bring people up to speed on how you got into racing.
Yeah, basically, I was very fortunate. My dad owns his own race team, Cliff Dempsey Racing. He owns the team in Ireland since 1989, so 30 years this year. I was, lucky enough to grow up with that my whole life, working in racing cars, been around racing car drivers, seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of what they all did wrong and right in their careers. And I started racing go-karts at 8 years old, and raced go-karts for 7 years. And then I took a bit of a break while my brother was trying to have his own racing career, and finished out school. My mum was adamant that I finished school before I went racing again. So 2004, end of 2004, I started racing Formula Ford with my dad's team, and carried that on for the next few years. Very successful. 2005, I had a very successful year racing in the UK. I competed in 33 races. Competed in 43 races, winning 33 of them. And my dad told me at that point, this will be the best year racing in your life, and he was dead right. And then kind of got stuck a little bit in the UK, trying to figure out exactly what road to take. Money was an issue, so I kind of took the risk and came over to the US to compete in the Star Mazda series at the time with very minimal sponsorship, and kind of tried to open as many doors as I could for the following 2 years, which was 2008, 2009. Missed out in a championship both seasons, third in 2008 and second in 2009. But I think I've had the most successful win ratio in the Pro Mazda series. Then I took another year out, raced Indy Lights, then on and off from 2011 through 2013, winning the Freedom 100 in 2013 is probably the highest achievement I have in the series, but also had many other podiums at road course races throughout the 3 years in Indy Lights. Mm-hmm. And then basically from there on, kind of took a step back from the driving side of things and worked with Juncos Racing for close to 7 years with their Star Mazda and Pro Mazda team, and then I moved up to their Indy Lights team in 2016 and 17, winning the championship there with Kyle Kaiser, and then last year worked with D-Force Racing in their USF 2000 team, while I was really working in the background with Antoine to establish our own program, which turned into Turn 3 Motorsport. So here we are.
So you've seen behind the scenes with your dad's team, you've seen behind the scenes with Juncos, and you haven't ended up bald like me, yet you still decided to get into racing. Well, okay, so you decided to get into racing yourself with the team. You probably really had to look for the right partnership, or what was it that decided to make that leap?
Really, it was not that I was getting tired of working for other people, but I knew to try to be successful in this business, I had to try to establish my own race team, and I really was looking for that opportunity. And it kind of just really worked out well, where I'd met Antoine and Eric, our other partner, and it made sense as this operation up to help, Antoine and Eric better drivers, and that's what we've used. So now Antoine stepping up to Indy Pro this year, and the great thing is experience in the road to Indy to be able to help them through all the pressures of a race weekend. So it's been a transition on team ownership, but obviously I've seen my dad do it for many years. I've seen, I've ran with teams like Andretti Autosport, Juncos Racing, Bilardi Auto Racing. So I have a huge amount of knowledge. I've always tried to keep learning through all the process I've been in. So I think all that knowledge is going to help me hopefully have a successful race team.
Does it still feed the competitive nature when you're standing there on the grid and it gets started up, or do you itch to get back in yourself every once in a while?
Unfortunately, I'm able to drive quite a bit between the Radicals and even with the Indy Pro, which is great. But nothing ever beats driving the car yourself. It's the problem about standing on the sidelines. You've no control over it. So, you get frustrated because you actually can't help the situation apart from trying to guide them on the radio. But at least when you're in the car, you're able to control your own destiny a bit more.
So what's he like on the radio, Anton? Now, be honest, when he's in your ear, or does he do a good job of debriefing after you get off the track?
Yeah, I think it's extremely helpful to have people there on the radio, and obviously sometimes I just feel like he wants to get in the car, and instead of telling me how to do it, just do it himself. But yeah, I think he's doing such a great job with the coaching in general and in the briefing. Yeah, I've been very lucky to have Peter over the last few years. That's for sure.
So what are the goals? What are the expectations? I always love hearing drivers talk about this going into next season. It'll be a full season. Anton, what are you looking to accomplish out of the year? What would you give yourself an A grade at the end of the season if blank happened? What would it be?
Yeah, so obviously this is an extremely challenging series. I think that a lot of guys go into it with the goal of winning it and moving to the next level and being an IndyCar in 2-3 years. From my point of view, that seems like a very very difficult goal. What I think I would give myself an A for is if at the end of next year I can be like fairly competitive, grab a couple of podium, of course, would be great. But yeah, basically I want to feel that I'm at the level required to be competitive in this series. So if the results are strong, there's always possibility of moving to the next level. But yeah, for now I'm just focused on performing as well as possible in this.
Definitely being solid, being part of the conversation. I've heard from a couple teams, and this is my feedback already. They come out of the gate and they do fantastic, and then they reset the expectations, and then they go through that mid-season lull, or they go through that difficulty because they caught a little bit of lightning in the bottle, or were fast out of the gate, and so they had to readjust. So it'll be that's interesting to see, and that's part of the journey that goes in. It is a question that I have to ask, though, Anton, because you've seen your heroes from Canada actually win the Indy 500. What would it be like for you? Dream with me a little bit. What would it be like for you to actually start on the grid for the Indy 500?
Well, it would be absolutely incredible. Obviously, something that I dream of doing when I was a kid. But to be honest with you, Robert, just being here right now in this series is already a big dream coming true that for a long time I never knew if I would get the chance to do. So yeah, already this is the dream coming true, and starting the Indy 500 would just be absolutely phenomenal.
I feel that way being able to cover the series, I got to tell you. And Peter, how about rolling your car out there and actually making the grid of a car that you've been a part of, that has your name on there with ownership or with a partnership of being able to do that? What would that be like? Because you've hit the pinnacle of the level of racing you're at Indianapolis. What would it be like to roll your car out to be one of the 33?
Oh, it'd be a huge honor, really. Obviously, never making it there as a driver, the next best thing would be to be in a position to do that as a team owner. So Antoine actually looks like he's a bit of an oval specialist. He had a great run at Gateway this year in Indy Pro car. So he adapted to ovals very, very well. So moving up the ladder, further down the line with Indy Lights and into IndyCar, I think the most important thing is to have a good car underneath him so he can push the limits, in a controlled manner. And to do that in a turn 3 car, in the Indy 500, maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the line would be amazing. Indianapolis 500 is one of the best races in the world, if not the best. I think both as a driver, as a team owner, as a sponsor, as a fan. So any involvement you can have with that race is also always going to be a special moment.
Fantastic. Always like to give an opportunity to give a shout out to the sponsors, the partners, because without them, all that work that's going on behind you is not occurring. So if you could give a shout out to those companies or those individuals that are helping you out.
Go for it, Antoine.
Yeah, so our partner in this business has been Eric Wagner. His company, Eastern Shipping Worldwide. He's the other driver, and it would have been very difficult to sponsor this team without his help. But has been extremely appreciated and helpful, and it's great to have him on board.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I know if it did come to having a car in the Indy 500 a few years down the line, Eastern would definitely be on the car as a primary sponsor, because I think for the three of us would be a very special moment for the team.
You bet. You bet. So getting ready for this weekend, that's with the Chris Griffiths, although by the time I probably do the production on this, you'll already be done with that. What else are the plans for the off season? Are you going to be down at Palm Beach or Homestead, and how do you balance between the Radical and the Indy Pro, or is it really the focus on Indy Pro? I know you have to close out the season with the Radical at Austin. Is that correct? And on Formula One weekend, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
2 weeks after the Formula One weekend. Well, to be honest, we feel like the focus this year has pretty much been the Indy Pro, except on the weekend that we had Radical races. Okay. Obviously, as I was saying earlier, the level is much more challenging with the Indy Pro, and since it's a fairly new car for me, I had to put a lot more focus on that. I do have one weekend left in the Radical. That's going to be in November 15 at the Spirit of the America. But after that, we're trying to put a good winter testing program together, and focus is only going to be on the Indy Pro car.
Fantastic. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you down here in Florida for sure. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, no, we've also got a big endurance race coming up in December. Our biggest project of the year really is the Thunder Hill 25-hour out in Thunder Hill, California. So that race takes place the first weekend of December. So we're in the middle also, as long with prepping the Radicals and the Indy Pro for this weekend and the last Radical Cup race. We also have a huge endurance race and challenge ahead of us in December. So any spare hours we have, which aren't many at the moment, but are definitely going straight into the Thunder Hill program in December. And then Antoine's Indy Pro car will go get some upgrades done on the chassis over the winter, with a view to coming back then next year with a 2 to 3 car program in Indy Pro to really help Antoine develop as a driver, having those teammates, in the car alongside him every weekend, pushing him and pushing the car's limits. And I think that's what's going to really make him a stronger driver throughout the 2020 season.
Well, and it seems like it makes sense economically as well, of having those additional cars and the resources. And then definitely because the track time is so short with the practices, being able to give one coaching and be able to have the different data that you're getting. So fantastic to learn more about Turn 3 Motorsports. Saw you guys, you jumped right in. I saw some wide eyes at Gateway, I got to tell you, when folks were getting off of the track, but yet it was almost interesting to see the field flip a little bit in the first part of the race, because they were different road course specialists that were kind of feeling their way out, and others that were enjoying the oval. So that will be interesting to see. And we're less than 150 days from cars being on the track in St. Pete. So tick, tick, tick. That'll be here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's going to be a busy winter. Normally they say you have an off season, but I'm learning pretty quickly as a team owner, there's no such thing. It's always a hustle. So really looking forward to obviously getting a new season started. There's nothing better than seeing fully rebuilt cars on the ground for the first time and shaking them down. It's always very exciting to see their hard work and hours pay off. So really looking forward to this test, the rest of the season, and into 2020.
Well, fantastic. Anton, best of luck to you to finish out that season strong. Take that Radical Cup. That will give you some confidence rolling into the next year.
That's the plan.
Fantastic. And Peter, I appreciate you. I appreciate Mandy doing all the coordination with this. First of the year, if you're open to it, reach back out, touch base with you, and maybe we'll see you down here in if not in December, then in March at the testing down here in Florida. When you've had it up to here with all that cold weather, come down and see us a bit, and then we'll definitely see you at a home track here at St. Pete.
Yeah, the goal is definitely to get down in Florida early to mid-January and do about a month and a half of testing down there to prep for the season. So get out of snowy Chicago and enjoy some nice Florida sun.
Fantastic. Well, let me know. I'll coordinate with Mandy as to when you're going to be around and check that out. Folks, Turn 3 Motorsports, look for them in the Indy Pro 2000 series next year. Looking for solid performance out of them. Great backing with all the experience with Peter and Anton bringing his championship credentials to the series. And it's great to have a little bit of experience with some of the young bucks that are going to be out there as well. So, folks, I appreciate you tuning in to the podcast. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite player. Leave a comment if you could. Share. You know how to do all that social media stuff. And until next time, keep dreaming. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this video from 33 Dreams of Indy. It would mean the world to me if you would click subscribe so that you could be notified of any new videos that come along.